What you're about to hear was written 3,000 years before scientists discovered it. In 2023, neuroscientists at Stanford made a shocking discovery. Your thoughts physically rewire your brain. They called it neuroplasticity. But here's what they won't tell you. An ancient text written when humans thought the earth was flat already contained this exact principle, word for word. How is that possible? I'm not here to preach. I'm here to show you evidence. Because what if, and stay with me, what if the greatest scientific manual ever written was disguised as a spiritual book? What if ancient prophets weren't just spiritual leaders, but quantum physicists who didn't have our vocabulary? Let me show you something that will make your skin crawl. Modern quantum physics has a principle called the observer effect. It states that the simple act of observing something changes its behavior at the subatomic level. Now listen to this verse, written nearly 3,000 years ago. As a man thinks in his heart, so is he. Proverbs 23, verse 7. Think, so is. Observation. Reality. Different words. Same law, but it gets stranger. In the famous double-slit experiment, particles behave like waves until someone watched them. Then they became solid matter. The scientist's consciousness literally changed physical reality. Now hear this. Faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. Hebrews 11, verse 1. Substance, evidence. Scientific terms in a Bronze Age manuscript. The Bible is saying your focused consciousness, what it calls faith, gives substance to invisible potential. That's exactly what quantum mechanics describes. But let's go deeper into your brain. And trust me, this is where things get fascinating. When you think a thought repeatedly, your neurons fire together and wire together. This creates physical pathways, literally restructuring your brain's architecture. Think about that. Your thoughts aren't just invisible ideas floating in your head. They're physically carving pathways into your brain tissue. Dr. Joe Dispenza spent decades studying this phenomenon. He found that focused thought combined with elevated emotion creates a powerful neurochemical cocktail. Dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin. These chemicals don't just make you feel good. They signal your genes to produce proteins that rebuild your body at the cellular level. Your thoughts are rewriting your DNA. Let that sink in. Now, 2,000 years ago, someone wrote, "Be transformed by the renewing of your mind." Romans 12, verse 2. Renewing, not just changing. Renewing. Biological regeneration. They knew, but how? Here's where it gets unsettling. And I want you to really pay attention to this part. The Bible talks constantly about speaking things into existence. God speaks creation into being. Humans are told their words have power. For centuries, people thought this was purely metaphorical, just spiritual poetry. But modern science now knows something remarkable. When you speak, you create specific vibration frequencies. Every single word has a measurable resonance that travels through space. Dr. Masaru Emoto performed an experiment that shocked the scientific community. He exposed water to different words and emotions, then froze it and examined the crystals under a microscope. Words like love and gratitude created intricate, beautiful crystalline structures. Words like hate and fear created distorted, chaotic formations. Now here's the part that should stop you in your tracks. Your body is 70% water. Read that again. 70% water. Every word you speak, every word spoken to you, is potentially restructuring the molecular composition of your body. And then you read this, written 2,000 years ago. In the beginning was a Word, and the Word was with God. John 1, verse 1. Frequency, vibration, word, creation. It's all there. It was always there. Now, before I continue, I need to ask you something. And I want you to honestly think about this. How many times have you heard someone say, "That's just a coincidence"? Because I'm about to give you a list of coincidences that might make you reconsider what that word even means. Let me rapid fire a few examples for you. The water cycle. You learned about it in school, right? Evaporation, condensation, precipitation. Scientists officially described this cycle in the 1600s. But Job chapter 36, written roughly 3,500 years ago, describes it in detail. The earth suspended in space. Job 26 verse 7 says God hangs the earth on nothing. This was written when every surrounding culture believed the earth sat on the back of giant animals or rested on pillars. Newton confirmed Earth's suspension in space in 1687. Invisible atomic structure. Hebrews 11 verse 3 states that what is seen was made from things that are invisible. Atoms were discovered in the 1800s. The expanding universe. Isaiah 40 verse 22 describes God stretching out the heavens like a curtain. Edwin Hubble confirmed the universe is expanding in 1929. The list goes on, and on, and on. This isn't metaphor. These are precise descriptions of natural laws written by people who had no telescopes, no microscopes, no laboratories, no peer-reviewed journals. So I ask you, how many coincidences does it take before it stops being coincidence? Comment your answer. I genuinely want to know what you think. So let me pose the ultimate question, the one that ties all of this together. Is the Bible a spiritual guidebook designed to get you into heaven, or is it humanity's first scientific textbook, encrypted in the language of its time? Were ancient prophets simply wise spiritual teachers, or are they accessing information from a source that exists beyond linear time and space? And here's the question that should genuinely keep you up at night. If these ancient texts accurately described neuroscience, quantum physics, cosmology, and biology thousands of years before scientists discovered them, what else do they contain that we haven't decoded yet? What other secrets are hidden in plain sight, waiting for humanity to be ready to understand them? Pause the video for a second. Just sit with that question. What if everything you've been taught about ancient texts is incomplete? What if we've been reading them at surface level, missing the deeper code beneath? Think about this pattern for a moment. Every major scientific breakthrough in human history was met with fierce resistance. Galileo was persecuted for saying the earth moves around the sun. Charles Darwin was ridiculed and attacked for proposing evolution. Albert Einstein was laughed at when he first published his theory of relativity. But eventually, inevitably, science caught up to what they knew. The pattern repeats throughout history. Revelation, rejection, eventual acceptance. What if the same pattern applies here? What if ancient texts contain knowledge we're only now beginning to have the tools to understand? What if our ancestors weren't primitive and superstitious, but were preserving advanced knowledge in the only way they could, through story and symbol? What if we've been reading them wrong this entire time? Consider the full implications of what we've discussed. If thought physically restructures your brain, and your brain controls every function of your body, and your body is primarily water that responds to vibrational frequency, then your consistent thoughts and spoken words are literally programming your physical reality at the molecular level. The ancients had names for this process. They called it prayer, faith, manifestation, the power of the spoken word. Modern science has different names. Neuroplasticity, epigenetics, the observer effect, psychoneuroimmunology. Same mechanism, different vocabulary, different time frames, same truth. If this is making you see reality differently, do me a favor, share this video with one person who needs to hear it. I want to be clear about something, because this is important. This isn't about proving religion right or science wrong. This isn't about choosing sides in some imaginary war between faith and reason. This is about recognizing that both might be describing the same fundamental universal principles, just from radically different perspectives. One uses a language of spirituality, metaphor, and story. The other uses a language of mathematics, experimentation, and peer review. But look closely, and you'll see they're both pointing at the same underlying truth. The universe operates by laws. Ancient texts describe these laws. Science discovers these laws. Maybe they were never separate to begin with. I created this channel because I couldn't ignore these patterns anymore. The connections were too precise, too frequent, too impossible to dismiss. Every video on this channel will decode another connection, another mystery, another piece of the puzzle that doesn't fit the narrative we've been given. But here's the thing. I need to know I'm not alone in seeing this. Are you seeing what I'm seeing? Or am I connecting dots that aren't actually there? Tell me in the comments. Where in the world are you watching from? And does this information make you question everything you thought you knew? Drop your country, your state, your city. I want to see how far this message is reaching. And if this video resonated with you, if something inside you said, yes, this makes sense, then hit that like button, hit subscribe, turn on notifications, because this is just the beginning. Next week, we're going even deeper into territory that will challenge everything. We're exploring how the Bible describes the multiverse theory, parallel dimensions, and quantum entanglement 2,000 years before physicists even had words for these concepts. I'll show you the exact verses, the exact correlations, and by the end, you won't be able to unsee it. Your reality is about to shift. I'll see you in the next revelation. Don't miss it.